Hey, 309 students. I wanted to make a series of videos for you to help you while you were studying for your exam. So I'm basically going to be walking through the files that I know you have access to work on your exam prep. And so this first set of activities that I'm going to walk us through is just how to mosaic the two digital elevation model files that you're starting with together. So the map that I'm showing you here has the two 1 arcsecond DEMs for central Pennsylvania. So we've got the one for sort of the Spruce Creek watershed and the one for the Spring Creek watershed. And so we've been using these files for the past couple of weeks. So hopefully you've got them working by now if you didn't have them working earlier. And then you'll also see we have two NHD flowline layers. So these are the ones that we got off the National Hydrography Database a number of weeks ago. And so you should have those files on your computer as well. I just put the Pennsylvania outline shape file from, I think, lab number 8 onto the map here so that you could kind of get yourself oriented and see the extent of the files that you have to work with for this activity. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to mosaic those two 30-meter resolution DEMs together. So if you remember, they're raster files. So under our ARC toolbox, we want to find data management tools. And then we'll go down to raster and then raster data set and mosaic to new raster. You'll see there's also a mosaic tool, but that will actually override one of the original DEMs. And so I encourage students not to do that, because if for some reason the file fails to work properly, then you'll wind up kind of writing over one of your original files and it just gets messy. So if you do mosaic to new raster, then you know you're pretty safe. And if anything happens, at least you still have your two original source files. So I'm going to click mosaic to new raster. And you'll see the first thing we need to do is input our two source files. So we can input this first raster file and the second. And then output location is just the folder where we want to save our file. And so you just have to navigate to the folder where you want to save your files for this activity. I've created this practice file, but if you want to, or a folder rather, but if you want to create a new folder, you can, or if you want to connect to a folder that's already on your computer and you don't see it here, then you need to do connect to folder. So I'm just going to click on practice. And all I need to do is click on that folder once, because if I navigate into it, then I don't really see anything to click on. So this output location is literally just telling the computer where you want to save. And so you'll just click once on your folder and hit add. And now we can save the file name. So I'm just going to call this Mosaic DEM. And we do need to put the .tiff extension here. So we'll save our file name. And then to figure out the pixel type, if you remember, we need to go into one of the source files and figure out what the pixel type and the number of bands is from the source file. So we just need to go into the properties from one of our raster files over here. It doesn't like my name because I already created this file. So I just wanted to show you how to do it, but it does take a little bit of time, a couple of minutes at least, for that to work. So for purposes of today's recording, I went ahead and made that already, but you shouldn't have a problem with your name unless you have a file already called that on your folder. So we'll just right click here and go into properties. And if you go under source, you'll be able to see the pixel depth, the pixel type, and the number of bands. So that's the information that we need to put into the mosaic to new raster tool. So we're going to need to specify 32-bit float, and number of bands is going to be 1. So if we go back out of this, hit OK. And now we can specify our pixel type. So you'll see we'll select 32-bit float so that that matches our source files. And the number of bands is going to be 1. And then we can hit OK. And yours should start to work. Mine won't, because I gave it a different, or the same file name as the one I had already created. But as long as yours starts to crank through, you should see mosaic to new raster tool kind of scrolling across the bottom of your screen if it's working. And just for purposes of time, I'm going to go ahead and turn on my file that would have been created as you were executing that mosaic to new raster tool. And we'll give it just a second. The flow lines are big files, so it just takes a moment for those to load. And so in a moment, you'll be able to see the new mosaic raster that we made. And just while that's loading, you'll see if it worked correctly, the ranges from the two original files should become the ranges on the new file. So the low elevation was 30.07 feet in one of my original files. So that's become the new minimum value on my mosaic file. And you'll see the high range, instead of just being this high one, becomes this high one. So you're taking the low of this file and the high of this file, and that becomes the range in your new Mosaic DEM. All right, so it still looks like it needs another moment. Oh, there it goes. So you'll see we have a new smooth DEM that's continuous. And so if I were to take that off so that you can see the source files underneath it, you'll see that they're kind of choppy right down the middle. And by mosaicing them together, we've gone from basically two puzzle pieces to our whole puzzle. And obviously this doesn't cover the whole extent of the state. So if you needed a bigger watershed, if you were doing like the entire Susquehanna or a different part of the state, then you might need more of these DM files to mosaic together. But for purposes of just showing you how to mosaic two files, and for purposes of your exam prep, since I'm sure that's what you're really here for, you just need those two files to start with. Okay, and the only other thing that we did with the DEMs is we changed the color that we were showing. So if you click on the symbology and change the color ramp, we can change this and specify invert so that the blue becomes the low portions of that DEM and the red becomes the higher portions. And that kind of helps us to see where the streams are, because they'll be kind of in this low area where the blue is showing. So as soon as that takes a moment to load here, you'll be able to see what that looks like. Okay, so I had just paused the recording while that loaded, but you'll see now we've got our smooth DEM and the colors showing the lower areas and the higher areas in red. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end this video, and then we'll start the next one, which will be creating a basin raster from our original DM. So if you wanna watch that, come watch the second video.